Who was the first person to tell you you were funny?
Oh, good question. Well, it was probably it was probably me. Just
It was
because
probably
no one
you.
else would talk to me. I was going, hey, you're funny.
It's episode 211 of the Cassius Morris Show. Thanks for tuning in to this brand new edition of the podcast. Got some very good responses to the solo episode that I just put up prior to this one. So just want to say I will definitely be releasing more of those. I'm paying attention to the reaction. And it looks like we might be working up to 2 shows a week. 1 solo show, 1 show with a guest. The solo shows I'm doing are only 15 to 20 minutes long. The guests, we try to keep it 40 minutes, usually an hour. So I think it will be a nice mix to keep the content coming out more regularly. As you guys see, we have the new setup. The interview with Colin Mochrie that you're about to see is the actual last one with my old setup in the other location, and then we're going to be all caught up with this. I guess you guys really get the chance to see how much I actually pre-record, because I do so many of these. Like, I'll sometimes do doubles in a day, I'll sometimes do 4 or 5 in a week, and we stockpile them so that we can keep the content coming. Sometimes that's how it works out. So that's what you're seeing right now. It's a lot of hard work, dedication, but it's what we love to do. Today on the podcast is the GOAT of improv comedy. And I'm not talking the animal. I'm talking the greatest of all time. Best known for his work on Whose Line Is It Anyway, UK and USA, Colin Mochrie is one of the staple names in improv, comedy, screenwriting, production, and basically just about any other credit you could have in the entertainment business. Colin Mochrie is one of the funniest people I've ever had the pleasure of talking to. And he's really a delight also. Just a really good dude. He cares about making people laugh. He's not heavy-handed. He doesn't have an agenda. He just wants to be funny, and he is funny, and he accomplishes that every single time, seemingly, that he opens his mouth. He had me laughing through this entire interview. Colin Mochrie is going on a virtual tour with Brad Sherwood, and I want everybody to go to colinandbradshow.com to check out the tour dates for the virtual tour. They're booked all into this summer. The link is in the description on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're currently taking this in. And if you're enjoying it, I must remind you to please hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're currently watching this or hearing this on now. And also hit the subscribe button on my second YouTube channel, Cassius Morris Clips, which is now up. We got about 150 subscribers to go on that channel until I can monetize it and start making money off the Clips channel, which is pretty important to me right now. I'm not asking for donations. I'm not asking for much. It's free to go click subscribe, and that's the ultimate way that you can support me right now. So if you want to do something free that takes 2 seconds to help me out, I would appreciate it, because I'm still on the come up here, as we all are in certain ways. And with that, let's get into my exclusive podcast with Colin Mochrie. Colin Mochrie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the most important thing I want to know is, how are you and how's life been? That's the main thing.
Yeah, it's been not bad. I mean,
Not bad.
It's of course been a horrible time, and work has kind of gone. Before the pandemic happened, I was doing 2 different tours and shooting a movie in Utah.
Wow.
And then almost like the next day, I was all of a sudden in the vulnerable group of a pandemic. So It was funny, it just changed. But it was, on the positive side, I mean, this is literally the first time in 18 years I've been at home this long. So it was nice kind of spending time with my wife and daughter, and figuring out how to do the show I do with Brad Sherwood, how to get that back out there. So yeah, it's all been good.
What's that been like for you? Because, I mean, you're known for having an insane work output. I mean, sometimes doing 5 to 6 television shows at once. I mean, talk to me about adjusting to that break and being with the family more.
Yeah, I always thought, you know what, I'm going to have a problem with retirement. I don't think I'll be able to sit back. But during this time, I thought, you know what, I may be okay with it. For 18 years, it's been, getting up at 3:30 in the morning, going to the airport, flying somewhere, doing a show, then driving somewhere the next day. And you sort of get into that sort of rhythm. So being away from that, I learned, I can relax. I still get antsy because I do like doing stuff. And we did come up with a way to do our touring show, which is great because I'm touring every week from my basement sitting down. So it's like the best of all possible worlds.
Right. And so talk to me about the show. I mean, how long has that been going on? It's with Brad Sherwood.
Yeah, we started in November.
Okay.
And our tech team using a technology I really don't understand. Brad is in Vegas. I'm in Toronto. It looks like we're in the same room. They sent us green screens and lights. And yeah, we do an improvised show. Like it's like our stage show in that we can interact with the audience. We can go actually into their living rooms, have them in scenes with us.
Wow.
The only odd thing is there's no laughter, which Brad is used to. It really throws me. It's been interesting, sort of.
Which Brad is used to. I like that.
Oh, absolutely. He's so used to not getting laughs; it's not even funny. And what you realize is how important the audience is. Not only because they're giving you suggestions, and they're there, but they also sort of dictate the pace of the show. And okay, this isn't quite working. Maybe we'll try a different tack, or they really like this. Let's do more of this. So it's been interesting having to just fully commit and believe that what you're doing is funny.
That is really interesting. So I would assume you can see them visually react, but they have their microphone on mute.
Yeah. We have. Wow. I have two computers. One is where I can see the audience, and one is with Brad and I, so I can sort of keep in the right distance and look like we're interacting with each other.
For each show, is it a Zoom specific group for each city? Like everybody in there is from the same city?
No. You can, if you go onto passportshows.com, we've had people from all over the world at our shows. Like,
wow.
I mean, the people from Britain, I think, it's like 2 a.m, but they're watching our show, and we've had people from India. So it's been great. We've been able to, I think, expand in some ways our audience.
How is staying sharp doing these types of shows? How is that in terms of preparation compared to the in-person shows? Is it the same sort of prep? Is it a different prep?
The in-person shows, there's no prep. Because we just
I guess.
kind of show up. We kind of like, okay, what games should we do? And that's it. Then we go on and do it. With this show, there's a whole tech thing we have to go through. And because of the green screen, we found ways of doing more visually popping scenes where we use backgrounds and we use, it works so that we're floating heads at one point. So it's just, when I say there's more prep, it's like 15 minutes more. So
but it's a little more. It's still more.
A little more. But it's still a great gig for a lazy person.
And I've heard you say that sort of in jest, like I started doing improv because I don't like to work and we just do it on the fly. But is there something actually to that?
Yeah.
Simply.
I love doing, I enjoy doing television and movies, but there's a lot of downtime. It's hard to keep the energy up going. Also, you have so much input from, the director, the writer, the producers, the executives. Yeah. What I love about doing improv is everything is on us. If we're sucking, it's because we suck. If we're doing well, it's because we're doing well, as opposed to being edited in a weird way. So I like having that sort of responsibility.
That's really cool. It's sort of like taking the production side and you guys are doing it, which might feel, does that feel new to you, or is that something from doing so many shows? Have you been on sort of the production side more?
I have been on the production side at times, and it made me respect producers because it's a lot of work. And my wife and I produced a show we did about 10 years ago. And it was just insane. You don't have any piece. Everybody wants a piece of you. And we were also acting and writing the scripts. So it was insane that way. So I do appreciate producers because then I can really get lazy and not have to worry about anything.
Right. Pay them. Hey, that's the way to do it, right? I like to pay people to do my Photoshop and stuff too. I feel like a lot of people don't know what a producer actually does in terms of roles. So in your view, what is the single most important role of a producer or biggest task you had to take on that side?
Oh, just getting the show done. You've got to,
Mm.
raise money. You've got to fill a lot of forms, especially in Canada, because you have to apply to certain funds. You have to, we thought doing the show, we did a 10-minute pitch, and immediately they said, "Yeah, okay, let's do it. We'll do the pilot in a month." We thought, "Oh, I don't know why people say it's so hard to get a TV show going. It's really easy," and that was just one small part. Then we had to apply for the Canadian Television Fund. I don't even know if that's still a thing, and we got turned down for that. So then we had to find a place where we could do the show. On a cheaper budget, and we connected with another producer in Ottawa. So we moved the entire production to Ottawa.
Wow.
So it's and then dealing with just just little specific things like from catering, making sure everybody who has issues have something they can eat. Also keeping an eye on overtime. All the horrible things.
So you really just do everything.
Yeah, that's basically it. You have to do everything.
So maybe that's why people have trouble defining it, because there's so much to it.
Yeah, it's just not one thing. It's everything. You also have to take care, you're dealing with the actors, the unions, the directors, the crew. It's too much. And yet some people thrive on it. Some people just love that. I am not one of them.
I'm people, by the way. When I say people, I'm people who are trying to find out about producing. I'm trying to make it sly, but I'm definitely that guy. So in terms of your upbringing, I heard you talk about the fact that for Whose Line, your first 2 auditions didn't go through. Is that correct?
Let me think now. My first one didn't go through.
Okay.
Because the improv was being filmed in Britain at that point. It was still a new art form in Britain, so they wanted to get more experienced improvisers. So they came to North America, and they had sort of cross-country auditions. I was at Second City at that point. They saw our show. They liked everyone, so they had us audition the next morning at 8. If you're going to be a producer, never have auditions at 8 in the morning.
Yeah, that's a good step.
Yeah, especially for comedy. So because we had been working as a cast for a long time, we did what you're supposed to do in improv. Everyone was supporting each other, so nobody really stood out. The scenes were great, but as I said, we worked as an ensemble, so none of us got cast. The next year, we had moved down to LA. My wife, Deb, had created a show that was being done down there. The Whose Line people came through again. I auditioned with people I didn't know, and it was like, hey, well, screw you, look at me. An important lesson for the kids out there. So I got it. My first show with Whose Line, though, I just sucked. I totally psyched myself out. I'd met the people I was improvising with on the show like an hour before we were taping, and they were all lovely and welcoming. But I thought, I really know these people. Although I'm in a country that speaks the same language, will they get my references? So I was very hesitant. I didn't jump in. And so I sucked. And luckily, the next year they were doing some shows in New York. My good friend Ryan Stiles was a part of it at that point. He said, give Colin another chance. And because we were shooting in New York, I felt more confident there. They also put me with Ryan, who I'd been working with at that point, I guess, over 10 years. And then it just sort of built from there.
Wow. So, I mean, what drew you back when it wasn't really working at first? Did you just have in the back of your mind the thought that it could work, or were you just innately drawn to it?
Well, I knew it could work. I knew that I had screwed myself. And I've found that throughout my career, there have been times I have been my own worst enemy, where I've gotten too into my head. And instead of what I've learned now is just do it. Just go out there and, you're depending on the people you work with. You're building up a relationship with them. And I knew I could do it. It just took my brain a little convincing.
Mm-hmm. So maybe one of the factors was being closer to a home base in New York City. Were there any other factors that you felt made you more comfortable other than Ryan?
Basically, that was it. I mean, being in New York, and I certainly felt, okay, I'm at home in North America. I also love New York. And working with Ryan all the time, it was just like, oh, this is something I do all the time. So it was almost forgetting it was a television show. It was just like, oh, we're working in a club. So
Interesting.
that's I think sort of helped throughout the over 30 years we've been doing Whose Line. Is the taping always feels like we're just doing it at a club for a small audience.
And you really have that relationship still. I mean, you and Ryan, you guys have known each other for forever now. I mean, talk to me about maintaining that relationship. It's been so long.
It's such a not an odd relationship. What I love about Ryan, there was a time I could not get a hold of him. He was, for some reason, he was changing his phone number all the time, and he lives in Washington State, and I was in Toronto. I had to friend his daughter on Facebook and go, "Hey, remember it's Uncle Colin? I'm trying to get a hold of you, Dad. Please trust me." And then, we reconnected. What I love about him is we can go years without talking, and then immediately it's like, I just saw you yesterday. It has that, it's a really easy feeling. So, right. And, he just got onto Twitter. Like,
recently.
When Trump became president, he got onto Twitter just so he could say horrible things about Trump every day.
He had to chime in.
He did. He didn't have an email for the longest time. In fact, when the latest season of Whose Line was happening, we decided, because the pandemic had just started, that we would have a little Zoom thing before the shows with the cast on YouTube. And he's not a technological wizard. He was sort of the last person I knew who ever got a computer. As I said, last to get an email. Right. So we go on to Zoom. On his Zoom screen is his email that he has just sent out to the internet.
Everybody. Oh no. Yeah. Probably a couple messages.
Learn from that. He got a lot of emails that week. He had to change his email.
That's hilarious. I mean, the wonders of Zoom, I've found it pretty challenging too, because I mean, in terms of my interviews, I usually did them all in person. So to have to set up a background and set up cameras and stuff, I mean, it is a new world, but you seem to be enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, it took, I know for Brad and I, it took us a little while to make the technology our friend rather than something we were fighting against.
Yeah.
The first couple of shows we did, were just, everything was kind of off. You're working with someone who isn't in the same country with you, let alone the same room. And also there was a bit of a time lag. And now it's all second nature. And we found ways to make the show better and use the technology so it worked better for us.
Exactly. Yeah, you have, it takes that time, and sort of learning it. And I think that it's, sort of puts everyone on a level playing field because a lot of us are learning it at the same time,
Yeah,
absolutely. It definitely helps.
It's like everything, it takes time. You're going to make mistakes and you learn from those mistakes and then you figure out exactly what the beast is. And yeah, it works out.
Yes. So being a Canadian I would say, I mean, and it's quickly changing, but a traditionally American-dominated space. I've heard you sort of talk about being singled out in ways for being Canadian. Can you talk to me about that experience?
You mean in America or just naturally?
Just in general. I mean, I heard about Whose Line UK. There was some cracks, but I'm not sure if they were jokes and good fun or if there was maybe something serious.
There's always been jokes throughout all the incarnations of Whose Line, whether it was British one or the Drew Carey one or even Aisha. They seem to, most of it I think is just plain jealousy.
Right.
They just can't deal with having a country that great above them. So there's always some sort of cracks. And I've actually gotten into a little bit of trouble with some of the stuff just because, Whose Line, it's all in fun. And I know when they're doing the bald jokes or the Canadian jokes, it's usually because they have nothing else and they're panicking. So part of me goes, oh, fine, whatever, as long as it gets a laugh. But there was one recently where we were doing a scene, and part of the scene there was a ventriloquist dummy. Mm-hmm. And after the scene, Aisha said, something like, "Oh, you must be so happy that you got a dummy there. I know all Canadians just love their dummies." And I said, quite innocently, "Yeah, but at least we don't elect them," which got a
Oh,
good laugh. And I thought, okay, that's it. I started getting like the most profane letters from people going, "How dare you insult my president?" Although I wasn't specifically targeting him. It was just more of a general thing. But I thought, well, if that's who you immediately think of, then maybe think about it.
you didn't say it, they did.
Exactly. So I think it is weird that we're on the same continent. We speak the same language, but they're so quick to throw us under the bus for some reason. I don't
It
know
is
what it is.
interesting. Yeah, I did recently did this podcast. It was a group podcast with about 6 comedians in America. Already a disaster, but we were on there, and I just happened to say, "Anybody else a Canadian here?" And it was just crickets. And all of a sudden, I started getting looked at differently. And I'm like, I think that we're doing pretty good over here. I gotta say.
Yeah, we're doing okay. We have a bit of a presence in the world stage and comedy, theater, all the arts. So yeah, relax.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane.
I find it fascinating also that most Hollywood productions now, the majority of them are being filmed in Canada. I mean, do you have
Yeah.
any thoughts on the way that's been progressing?
I think it's great for the economy. Obviously, when they come up here and film, I wish they would use more Canadian actors in the major roles.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's we'll give the Canadians cop number 4 or murder victim number 1. And my daughter actually today just got a part in a new series they're shooting up here called Clarice, which is based on Silence of the Lambs.
Wow, congrats.
It's great for her because she's just starting out in the business, and that's great. But I wish for more established actors, and we have like a great acting pool here in Canada.
Yeah.
I wish they would get more exposure and more of a chance to be like the major guest or even a major supporting role in one of the productions they do up here.
Yeah, it would be really nice to see more of us represented. I mean, I couldn't agree more.
Well, I know. I mean, we're so quick to point Canadians out when they make it in the States. And it's
Right.
like, well, wouldn't it be nice if they could make it up here, if there was a chance that we could do that for them?
Not have to leave us.
Yeah. That's what we're going, oh, they're Canadian. It's like, yeah, but you don't point them up. You didn't recognize them when they were up here because there was nothing happening.
Yeah, we're waving from the border now. We love you. Talking about the work-life balance, you mentioned your daughter. What's that like when you're working on projects with your wife?
It's pretty good. That show we did, that consumed our life because we were doing, as I said, we were producing, we were writing, we were both starring in it. And luckily we get along really well. So if there's ever a problem, yeah, we talk it out. Or you know what would be good right now is if we go in our own separate space for a couple of hours and just relax. So it never gets worse than that. We've never had like a knockout, drag down fight. So and we do a lot of improv shows together. We've toured together. And I think part of it has been because I have been away a lot, pretty much every weekend of the year, I'd be on the road doing something.
Wow.
So when we do get together, we try to make it more of an occasion. You get a chance to go out for dinner when we're touring and just to maybe see the sights, go to a museum. So, and I really think you need that balance in your life between. My thing always is acting is my job. It's not my lifestyle.
Right.
I love doing it, and there's nothing I'd rather be doing. But I also enjoy my family life and just doing things.
Absolutely. And I know you like to travel also.
Yeah, we've been doing well, not so much lately.
Right.
But what was the last? No, I guess I was going to say last year, but obviously it wasn't last year. It was the year before. We'd gone to Italy with some friends. I know it really is.
Yeah.
And time's running out for me, so that's why time means nothing.
For all of us.
So we went to Italy, and that was our Italy is the only place I've been so far that I could easily live there.
Hmm.
Usually, when I would go on vacations, after about 10 days, I get a little antsy. In Italy, I just so relaxed and just loved it. And we've been 3 times, and we have yet to. I mean, you just always feel like you're just scratching the surface.
Hmm.
And we've on our 30th anniversary, we went to Paris, um, Prague, Vienna, and London because it was also the British Who's Line's 30th anniversary. So we were doing
Oh,
4 shows at the Royal Albert Hall. So we decided, hey, it's our anniversary. Why don't we do a little trip before ending up in London, a city that we love? So we've been very fortunate that we've been able to see a lot of the world. We went to the Congo for 2 weeks with World Vision, doing some commercials and sort of doing our bit to help children get foster sponsors.
wow.
So that was an amazing trip because we went right after Christmas in North America, which is just consumer consumption, to the jungles of the Congo where people had nothing. And the people were great. Um, I can still see there was one time where Deb was leading all the kids in the village in the hokey pokey by the water, and there were
Hmm.
just these amazing moments of the light of these people who are living through incredible poverty and yet still had this spark that just and when they smiled, it was just amazing.
Was that your first time partnering up with them?
We had, yes, I'm trying to think. Yes, we had. I'd been with them for a couple of years doing various things, but this was the first trip we went on. And we've had others planned, but things would happen like natural disasters or a pandemic. So everything's sort of been put off, but hopefully we can get back to doing that.
Wow, that's incredible. Thinking back, because you're sort of a self-described loner when you were growing up. That's sort of the verdict. Who was the
Hmm.
first person to tell you you were funny?
Oh, good question. Who was it? I well, it was probably it was probably me, just
It was
because
probably
no one
you.
else would talk to me. I was going, "Hey, you're funny." I think because our small group of friends, I was the witty one, which doesn't speak well of my friends at that point. But I think that was it. And then it was a friend of mine, Roland Rossman, who dared me to go out for the school play, which I did, and I got my first laugh. And then that was it. It was like I'd just taken a shot of heroin or something. I,
You knew that
I
was
still,
it.
I still remember. Every time I talk about it, I still get that chill. I just remembered that feeling of, oh, I just made an entire audience laugh at something that I meant to do.
Yeah,
I want this. I want this all the time. I want it.
you needed
Yeah,
more.
exactly.
And you wanted to be a marine biologist, is that true?
I did. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
I
you
think
threw
I
that
probably
out
wrote
the
that.
window.
Yeah. Oh, immediately. It was like once I got a laugh, it's like, screw the oceans.
Yeah,
I
they'll be
want
fine.
to laugh. Yeah, there's other people with better grades who can do this.
Wow, that's so cool though. I mean, so it started with the school play. Have you ever done traditional stand-up comedy, just you?
I did once accidentally.
Hmm.
Um, it's horrific. I have nothing but the highest admiration for people who do it because I think it's the toughest of all the comedic arts.
Hmm.
When I was doing Whose Line with Drew Carey, I got a call saying, "Hey, they want you to host this thing at Spago's. It's an event to try to bring more movie making to Vegas. So you'll just kind of host the event and bring people on and blah blah blah." And I thought, I it's the kind of thing I hate doing. But I thought,
Right.
you know what? I'm going to try and get over this. I'm going to try and make it so that I can get through one of this. It will be a learning experience for me. Then the day before, I got the itinerary, and it says Colin opens with 10 minutes of stand up.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Obviously, I don't know who they think they've hired. Um, but I called and said, I don't really do stand up. And they said, well, just be funny for 10 minutes. I went, yeah, okay. So then I called Drew and I said, hey, Drew, I have to do stand up for 10 minutes. Do you have any tips? And he said, get out of it, man.
Cancel.
Well, you know what? That was probably the best advice. I should have.
Oh my gosh.
I got there and it was just packed with people. Everybody was schmoozing. There was no stage. So I was on the floor of the restaurant. There was a light, but you couldn't see anything. I was about to go on and the presenter stopped me and said, wait, we're Spielberg's coming. So we just want to wait for a second.
Wow.
So luckily they were spotlighting Alberta vodka. So I took a couple of those. And then I started, and thank God for these two guys in front of me who just thought I was the best thing ever. Nobody else was paying attention. At one point, the person in charge jumped up and said, for God's sake, listen to him. He's trying his best.
Oh, he's trying his best.
No, it's not going.
Wow.
So it was over. And then at the end, I found it wasn't Spielberg they were waiting for. It was Steven Seagal. So it was a disappointing evening all around.
What an insulting mix-up. I mean, could it be really any horrible. Different? It's like, oh, Gordon Ramsay, sorry, we're going to Taco Bell. I mean, really, like,
no,
horrific.
That was sad.
Wow, that makes me wonder why. I mean, what do you think that is? Because you're such a naturally funny person.
I think part of it is improv. Well, there's so many. In improv, I don't have to make sense. If you transcribe scenes from Whose Line, you could never do it as a sketch because it's so of the moment. It's that audience, those performers at that time. A lot of it is just like kind of nonsense rambling. Also, there's a different perception with the audience. When they're going to see a stand-up, they kind of sit back a little and go, okay, you're funny? All right, prove it to me. Show me you're funny. With improv, it's like they have a vested interest in us doing well because they're giving us the suggestions. So they want to see, oh, I give them that suggestion. So we have maybe 10 more minutes to suck before stand-ups, before they turn on us.
And then if it's really funny, it's almost like a plus. Like people don't expect to be falling out of their chair, but if they are, in sort of stand-up, it's like a challenge almost.
Yeah, it's more it's more like a war between the stand-up and you're trying to get them on your side. You're trying to overcome them. Whereas we're more of a cult. We try to bring them into our ranks.
It's all of us together.
Exactly. We're all part of the big funny.
That's the best. Maybe it would have been appropriate to mention this at the beginning, but 500 episodes of Whose Line? Yeah. I mean, what does that bring up for you in terms of thoughts, emotions?
I mean, obviously the show has been an important part of my life. When I got into improv, I never thought, oh, this is going to be my career. It was just something I loved doing. We would do it on the weekends. Right. And Whose Line brought improv into sort of the public consciousness. Nobody really knew what improv was. Robin Williams, I think it started probably just before that. So people had kind of an idea, but they didn't actually know what improv was. And Whose Line brought that into the public consciousness and gave us a chance to get work. We all are doing our different tours. It amazes me how well it's done. I mean, the first year in the States with Drew Carey, we were like the hottest thing. Our ratings were great. And then someone at the network discovered how cheap the show was. And so they decided, we'll put it up against Friends and Survivor. Because even though they'll get trounced in the ratings, because the show is still cheap, it'll still make us money. So we were getting slaughtered every week. So I'm constantly surprised people will come up and say, so many people come up and know the show. Because I just thought, well, no one will know it because two of the most popular shows of the decade, if not ever, are up against us. And then when we were off the air for a while, what started happening was the internet became our friend. These kids who weren't born during the Drew show started catching up on it with YouTube. Right. And so it became this groundswell. The CW noticed and said, hey, let's bring the show back. So I think we just got renewed. Yeah, we got renewed, and the show started in January. We just got renewed again, even though we haven't taped since 2018.
You're still getting renewed.
We get renewed, and they
That's
still
amazing.
have new episodes because we have so much extra material. They've managed to package it into God knows how many more years we can do without me actually having to go somewhere and do something.
2025, you guys will start taping, but we'll have episodes every week until then.
It's pretty good. It really has been the best gig ever. It's given us all recognition. It takes 2 weekends out of our year, so it's not grueling in any way. It's really hard to beat as a job.
Yeah, no, I mean, that sounds amazing. And, we all love the show. So happy to see it continuing still. This has been fantastic. To wrap things up, I just have a quick little speed round of questions, little on the spot. The first one is what's that?
Is there a prize? Because I
pick anything you want off the wall. We'll give it to John Lennon. Who's an artist that you wish you would have seen live in their prime?
Oh, my God. Very good. I would have the Beatles.
The Beatles. I love that. You could switch ability with any entertainer for one day. Who would it be?
Oh, Springsteen.
Nice. That would be fun.
I've always wanted to be a singer.
You've always wanted to be a singer. That's the back of the mind thought?
Actually hurts me that I can't do it. It hurts. That's
interesting to know. What's one moment in your life that you felt starstruck?
I ended up having dinner with Bobby Orr. And for me, that was, I was a big Boston Bruins fan when I was growing up, when it was, a 6-team league. And so for me, having dinner with him and me going to him at one point saying, I have a doll of you. And just watching his face go, it's so surreal. So surreal.
Wow. What's the biggest misconception about Canada?
Oh my God. What is I don't know. That we're polite.
That we're all polite. I agree.
Yeah.
Where are all these nice people? No, there's a lot of them,
but yeah, compared to the States, yeah, of course we are. But
compared to a lot of places, yeah. It's true. Finally, deliver one message to your younger self. 20-year-old you walks in the room right now. What would you say?
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
It's about the long game.
Yeah, I learned that my thing was to hang in till everyone else quit or died, and that worked out for me.
That's really good. Determination. I really like that. Colin Mochrie, thank you so much for your time today. This has been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. Lovely to see you.
And there you have it. My exclusive podcast with comedy legend Colin Mochrie. I want to thank Colin for taking the time to chat with me. I want to thank his team for facilitating it. And I want to thank you for checking out the podcast. If you like what you just saw, please hit that subscribe button wherever you're tuning in, be it Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher Radio. Hit that subscribe button and leave a comment, like, and review if you can. I definitely want to know what you guys think of the content that I've been putting out. Let me know. I'm all ears, and I'm always listening and reading those comments, and I try to respond to as many as I can also. Also follow me on social media at Cassius Morris and the show at Cassius Show. That's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And of course, as always, thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Until next time, this is Cassius Morris saying, rock on.